Hi everyone, Ran Ben Avraham here again for aetutsplus.com, and today I'll show you how to create a multi-limb walk cycle. So first, let's have a quick preview.
Oh, damn it!
Well, that was somewhat silly and somewhat witty preview, and that's because I'm a somewhat silly and somewhat witty guy. Okay, so first let's start by creating the crab walk cycle. For that I'll create a new composition. I'll make it 500 by 170 and we'll make it square pixel, press OK, and we'll call this crab. Let's put it in comps and let's drag in our crab parts. Now about this crab, let's move to Photoshop for a second. This is the original picture of the crab which I got from Flickr. I separated it to half a body, a claw, and one of the legs. Now I used this middle leg and I used the stamp tool to create what was missing here. Now we need to adjust some things here. So let's move the body to the back. The leg should be somewhere around here and the claw should be here. Let's move all these up. Now rename this body 01 and we'll rename this leg to left leg, sorry, not J leg but left leg 01, and we'll rename this claw 01. And for now we're going to animate just this left side of the body and we'll move on from there. So first things first, we want to animate left leg 01, and to do that we're going to use the rotation of the leg and the puppet tool. So first we need to adjust the pivot point of the leg. So hit Y on the keyboard and move the pivot to the right position, and now it rotates on this axis, which is all very nice. And we want to add the puppet tool as well. So hit the puppet tool and let's hit first the pivot point, and we'll add a joint here, and a joint here. Okay, now let's hit U. The moment you apply the puppet tool, it automatically adds keyframes. So click on the keyboard Shift R to reveal also the rotation property and keyframe that as well. Now if we move to the 10-second mark, we can move the puppet tool, move this joint just a bit up, and this one just a bit to the left, and this one as well. We don't want to be too much, we want to be as natural as possible. So it moves up, this part moves to the left, the leg moves up just a bit, and in 20 seconds mark it moves back down, and this one should be around here, this one will move down, and in the 30 frames mark we just copy and paste all these keyframes, and let's see how that looks. That looks fine. And remember, this crab will be moving from a distance and it will have 6 limbs and it would look quite natural. So now we want to make it a walk cycle. Alt click on the stopwatch and hit loop underscore out, open parentheses, quote cycle, unquote, comma 0, close parentheses. And what this expression will do is repeat the action over and over again. So now we need to copy this expression and paste it to all the other properties, and that's it. We have a leg walk cycle. Let's have a quick preview. Great! Remember, this leg is the middle leg. What we want to do now is duplicate this leg 2 more times for this side and 3 more times for this side. So actually, because this leg is the middle leg, we'll call it 02. And let's duplicate this one and call this one 01. It's already got all the animation we need, So all we need to do is just reposition it. Let's hit S, and let's unlink the scale values. On the X scale value, we want to decrease it to about 80%, and let's move it to be above the leg, the other leg, and duplicate it once more, move it below the second leg, and we'll scale it even less. We'll make it 75. Let's make this one 85, and this one will be 70. Okay, and now they all move together, which doesn't really look good or natural at all. We'll go to 5 frames mark and move the second leg to start here, and we'll go to 10-second mark and move the left leg to start here, and let's move back to 0.000 and move all of these to this point, and now our crab has a real nice walk cycle. That's all very nice. Now let's do the same for the claw. First we move the anchor point to the right position. Once again, let's use the puppet tool. We'll set a point here and in this joint and somewhere around here. So let's hit U to reveal the keyframes and Shift R to reveal also the rotation. Make a keyframe from that one as well. Let's see. At this point, we'll move it just a bit here. And here we'll just copy paste it. And for the rotation, we'll just do it slightly to the left. Okay. I think this is a bit too much, so let's delete these frames. It should be better. Okay, great. Now the time has come to add the other half of the crab. So let's first create a new null object. Let's duplicate all these, move them above the null object, and we have body 2, and this will be right leg 1, this will be right leg 2, and this will be right leg 3. And we'll parent all these layers to the null object and hit S, unlink these scale values, and hit -100 on the X scale value. That will flip all the layers. Well, now we'll move it a bit to the right, and now we got a full crab with the same walk cycle. Now our crab moves either from left to right or right to left, and in this case it moves from left to right. So the left side moves from the left to right, and the right side moves from the right to the left. That's not quite logical, now is it? So we need to adjust the keyframes a bit. Let's move back the leg layers to start all the same time once more, and hit U to reveal the keyframes, and mark all the keyframes. Put your cursor on one of the keyframes and right click on the mouse button. Go to Keyframe Assistant and Time Reverse Keyframes. And now the crab moves to the right direction. And we'll do the same for the second claw. Keyframe Assistant, you might not be able to see it, but it's there. Time reverse keyframes. Now we need to repeat the process we did before. So go to 5 frames mark and move the second leg there, and go to 10 frames mark and move the third leg there, and let's move them all to start at the beginning. And now we have a real nice walking cycle. Oh yes, I forgot to put the expression in the claw as well, so let's add the expression here real quick. Okay, and for the second claw as well. So now the claws move together in not that convincing manner. So let's move the second claw a bit. Okay, now one more thing. First things first, we don't need these layers to be parented to the null, so we'll unparent them, and we'll move the null here, and let's move the body 02 layer above the body 01 just to keep things in order. And now the body should tilt slightly from left to right as these legs moves up the body should tilt a bit to the right and vice versa. So to do that, first we want to move this null here. We will move the null to the middle of the body, and we'll call this null body null, and we'll parent both body layers to the null. At this point, the left legs are in their highest point, so we'll tilt the body just a tag to the right, maybe 2 degrees, and keyframe it, and at this point it's the highest point, and we'll tilt it to the left, -2, and let's go to 30 frames mark and copy paste the keyframe, and we'll make it a cycle. One last thing we need to do is we need to parent all these layers to the body null as well, so that when it moves, they'll move with it. And that's it. We have our crab walk cycle. Okay, so now we finished the crab walk cycle. Let's move on to the footage. Let's go to Assets, Footage, and drag our footage, create a new comp out of it. First, let's start with a little bit of color correction. So, new adjustment layer, rename it to CC, color correction that is, and levels, and let's crush the black and white input a bit, just to get a bit of more live colors, and curves, just to get a bit more contrast. And if we'll get a bit closer, you can see the footage is a bit grainy. And a nice little plugin to deal with that is remove grain. Now I'll change the view and move from preview to final output. Let's set the noise reduction settings to 6. Now if I'll remove it, you can see the difference. Real nice plugin, but very heavy to render. And if you'll go crazy with it, let's say I'll raise it to 3, it gets all blurry, which could be a nice effect in some cases, but not in this case. And because we want a fast render, for now we'll just shut it off. Let's rename this footage base and drop it in the comps folder. So what we need to do is time remap this footage. So let's create a new composition and call it footage time remap. Okay? Drop it into comps and drag in the footage base. First things first, let's right click on footage base and go to time, enable time remapping. So we get a keyframe at the start of the footage and at the end. So let's go to 2 seconds mark where the crab says timeout, and set a keyframe here. Go 1 frame later, set another keyframe from 2 seconds mark to 6 seconds mark, which is 4 seconds, and grab this keyframe and the last keyframe and move them here. Let's resize the layer to be at exactly the right length, and let's trim the work area, and let's see what we've got. Walking, oh beep, time out, walking, time in, footage continues. Now this last piece of footage I think could be a lot faster, so we'll make it a 1 second. Now if we'll scroll a bit on this footage, you'll see the wave starts almost immediately. And I want the crab to walk on the beach a while before the wave comes in. So let's create another new composition and we'll call it footage extension, because we are going to extend the footage we got right now. So let's drag in the footage time remap and zoom in a bit, and let's duplicate this one. On the lower one we're gonna right click and go to time, freeze frame. Let's go to 2 seconds mark, and the top layer should begin at this point. Now if we'll scroll a bit, we can see the camera that shot this piece of footage has a bit of movement. So to have a believable scene, we need to track this piece of footage. So let's go back to our footage base, and we want to track the first 2 seconds, because remember, the first 2 seconds is where the crab goes, there it stops. So let's go to footage base and click on the footage layer and hit track motion. Good place to track will be this dark spot. Zoom in a bit, and let's see how that goes. Okay, so let's see, in 2 seconds mark the last couple of frames are a bit off, so let's manually change those. Great, so let's go to 2 seconds mark and zoom in a bit. Now we don't need all these. Let's create a new null object and we call it track data. Pick the footage once more and let's see, edit target. We don't want CC, we want track data. Hit OK and apply on the X and Y axis. Let's see how that looks. Fantastic. Okay, we don't need our track data here, so Control X, and we need it in the footage extension and Control V. So let's trim stuff here. This one should end here, and this one should start here, and it lasts till this point. So now will be a good time to drag in our AE Tuts logo inside. But I would have to be sincere. When I first did the preview, I made it in After Effects CS5, and to create that logo, I used, which is now a free plugin inside After Effects, CS5. So for this tutorial's sake, I'll show you how to create it in CS5, but for the project file, you'll have the logo in a PNG file. First, I converted the logo to a 3D layer, and then rotated it on the x-axis to -90, and let's move it down here and rotate it on the z-axis until it lines up with the beach. Okay, and now we need to give it a bit of a texture. Now I think the beach is real smooth in this area, but if we'll use Digi Effects Freeform, we can add to it a bit of texture that will make it seem more realistic. So we'll add to the grid 3 more rows, oh sorry, not 20 but 3, and 3 more columns, and just play around with those. And let's raise this area a bit, make it seem as if there's a pile of sand there, and sort of that's more or less what I did there. And what I also did is I added CC glass effect and used the footage time remap as a base for the displacement map. And that's it for CS5. Let's go back to CS4. Here we got already the PNG file, and we want to switch it to hard light. Should be fine. And let's lower the opacity to about 80, should be fine, and parent it to the track data. Fantastic, look how that shadow looks on it. So good, so good. Okay, so now at this point, the wave comes in and should erase the logo completely. So let's see, somewhere around here it should be half erased. So let's create a nice mask for it. And subtract it and give it a bit of feather. And let's see, around here it's complete, so keyframe it here. So we'll move the entire mask up and do it around here. It should be completely erased, so mark all these. And this should be around here. And it's a bit moved down. Let's see how that looks. And since we don't have track at this point, hit Shift P and make a keyframe from it here. And at this point, it should be moving. Let's move it a bit down. and to the right a bit. Let's see how that looks. Absolutely great. Wonderful. That all we have left is to add in our crab and do a nice animation for it. Okay, so let's close this and drag in our crab. First let's scale it down a bit. It's a bit too big. It should be fine. It could be smaller. Make it 25 maybe. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. So now let's create a new null object and we'll rename it to crab null. Center our crab null in the middle of the crab. At 4 seconds mark, the crab would say timeout, and he would be just around here. But he would stop walking in around 3.10. So he will set a keyframe, and at the start he would start walking from here, which seems like a logical distance for him to walk. Now of course we need to parent the crab null to the tracker data, so the crab will move with the camera. At this point he's still not moving, and in 8 seconds mark he will be moving out of the frame. So here's why we used the null to move the crab. At this point the crab shouldn't be moving at all, but the legs are still moving. So what we want to do is time remap the crab itself. So right click on it, time, enable time remapping. Let's hit U to see the keyframes in the crab null. Make a keyframe here and move one frame forward, another keyframe, and let's move to the 4 seconds mark, move the keyframe here. So now we got a crab which isn't moving at all. I think he is moving. Mark those 2 keyframes and go to keyframe assistant, go to keyframe interpretation and set spatial interpretation to linear, and then the crab won't move at all at this point. And at this point the crab should be moving a lot faster. So let's see. I think he's moving I would say twice as fast at this point. We'll move the end keyframe to around here. Okay, so to help our crab blend a bit more naturally into his environment, we're gonna add him a shadow. So now let's duplicate our crab and we'll call it crab shadow, and we'll add where's the effects? We'll add a fill effect, set it to real dark blue, and a fast blur, and let's see, it should be fine, and we'll set it to overlay, and now we'll make it a 3D layer and move the pivot to around here, and let's rotate it on the x-axis. Okay, so now let's create a new composition. We'll call it main comp, and to our main comp we'll drag in the footage extension. And let's see, until 2 seconds mark, we got a spot. Sorry, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry, I have to remember to do that. Until 2 seconds mark, the crab moves along, but there is no camera movement. And from 2 seconds mark on, we got a real nice camera movement. So what we want to do is fake our camera movement. And here's how we're going to do that. We'll create a new adjustment layer. We'll call it wiggle control, and we'll add effect, expression control, slider control, and we'll rename the slider to wiggle control. And let's make this layer 3D layer, and hit P to reveal the position value, and alt click on the stopwatch, and we'll write, let's reveal the effect here, and we'll write here wiggle, open parentheses, 0.5, comma, and let's move inside the parentheses and pick wave it to the slider. So now we got no wiggle whatsoever, and we'll set it to 1. And we'll copy this expression and hit R, and we'll alt click on the X rotation and paste in the expression, and same goes for the Y rotation. So we can raise it a bit more, and at this point in time, at 2 seconds mark where the actual footage starts, we set a keyframe and want to be a gradual decay, so let's go to about 1 second point 10 and set a keyframe again. At 2 seconds mark we'll set it to 0. You know what, let's move to 2.10 and here we'll set it to 0. Okay, and it can be a little bit less, make it 2. We have the edges showing, so let's get rid of those. Hit CC repeatile, sorry, not to the wiggle control but to the footage, and we'll set the tiling to unfold, and let's see, we'll set the right. This is another effect which you should be using very subtly, because it's very heavy to render, so I'll just set them all to 15 and that should take care of it. Okay, great, and at 4 seconds mark, actually let's back to somewhere around here, and at 4 seconds mark we want to wiggle again, so we'll give it 10 frames to wiggle, to gradually wiggle in and gradually wiggle out. Okay, so let's have a quick preview of that. So that's a bit too much here. So let's lower the value to 1, and here as well, and that's a bit better. Maybe 0.5, 0.7, 0.6, 0.6. Now, of course, from this point on, you can help the crab blend in a bit better with a little bit of light wrap, and you can add a coconut tree here and a nice boat in the distance. But the main point of this tutorial isn't this compositing shot, it was the multi-limb walk cycle, which is demonstrated in a real nice fashion here. That's it! I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and until next time, my name is Randan Abraham for AE Tuts, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.